We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is your host, Abe Williams, and
co-host Sammy Williams.
Hope everyone's doing alright today. Got a couple ghost stories and a UFO story again. Honestly, we're pretty much backlogged on a bunch of UFO and ghost stuff. I do have 2 other episodes planned. I'm going to do an episode on the Prometheus story, the Lightbringer, and then I have a story I'm going to do, honestly like an episode on adrenochrome, kind of some of the heavier hitting issues and stuff with the conspiracy world. But my books are packed up right now. I'm waiting on like a little bit more of moving to be done. We're just waiting on a pickup truck. So once I get my shelves set up and stuff, I can get my books unpacked and I'll get that adrenochrome episode out for you all. But yeah, just finished eating, made some Alfredo. Just been working like crazy. That's about it. You got anything going on in life?
Nope, just unpacking.
That's about it.
Watching a little bit of stuff and working.
Cool.
Take little breaks in between.
Right. But we'll go ahead and get on with the podcast and share some paranormal ghost stuff and a UFO story for you all.
Alright, the ghost story is called The Free Spirit in Ashton Villa, Galveston, Texas. James Brown of Galveston was a proud man. He was proud of the fortune that he had made in the hardware business, of building the first brick house in the state, of being a Texan, and of his daughter Betty. But as time went on, it appeared that Betty had a tragic flaw. Her home was the... Alright, I'm messing up on a word. Betty's home. Palatial?
Ashtonville.
Palatial Ashton Villa, fortunately completed in 1859, for due to the Civil War, nothing was built from 1861 to 1865. Galveston was blockaded during the greater part of the war, first captured by the Federals in October of 1862 and then recaptured 3 months later by the Confederates. Born in 1855, Miss Betty, a lovely, golden-haired child, lived in an exciting atmosphere. During the war years, the house served as a hospital for Confederate soldiers, and as Galveston was alternating in the hands of both armies, serving as a headquarters for both Union and Confederate generals came and went. Over and over again, it had been said in Galveston that the swords of surrender were exchanged between the North and South in the Gold Room, Ashton Villa's ornate formal living room. Soon after the war ended, Galveston began to regain its prosperity, whereas were again crowded with ships laden with merchandise. Old stores were remodeled and new ones were opened. Wartime damage was repaired, and returning soldiers came home to resume their trades and professions. It was a bustling port. The late 1800s arrived, and with them Galveston became a celebrated trading center. Ships from around the world dropped anchor in its busy harbor. Fortunes were made overnight, and the Strand, the business district of this seaside city, became the Wall Street of the Southwest. One of the most picturesque and romantic cities in the South, it was the perfect setting for a beautiful woman. Here, Rebecca Ashton Brown, the favorite daughter of financier James M. Brown, lived an adventurous life, the likes of which most Victorian ladies did not dare even imagine. A legend in her own time, she scandalized many with her liberated ways. She often traveled alone, smoked in public, and never married. Shocking for a woman of her day.
Oh my God, smoked in public.
And never got married.
Oh wow, so scandalous.
During them times, yeah. Miss Betty, as she was most often known, was the epitome of... Oh, darn it. Why are you getting me to read today? I can't read today.
Because I can never read, honestly.
Well, today, I know these words, but they're not coming out
Which
correctly.
Frivolity.
Frivolity.
Like frivolous.
Yeah, I know. I knew
Yeah.
what the word was, but it wasn't coming out. My mouth is new.
Well, it is a podcast. This ain't an audio book, so if anyone's got anything to complain about, it's like, go listen to an audio book. You're listening to a podcast, man.
Yep, and I'm trying my best. My mouth just ain't working. Okay, so epitome of frivolity and opulence that the period exuded. A free spirit, she traveled to München, Dusseldorf, and other art centers of Europe. Preferring travel and adventure to giving up her freedom, Miss Betty rejected marriage, but had many buttes?
Yeah, just beau, like beau.
Okay.
Well, it's French for beautiful.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so one of them even quaffed champagne from her gilded slipper. Oh my.
Dude had a foot fetish.
Yep. 9 years after the end of the Civil War, a fabulous, fashionable summer resort for the wealthy opened in Waukesha, Wisconsin. It was called Fountain Spring, and the arrival at its doors of a Southern belle from Galveston, Texas, was reported in the Milwaukee Journal. She made her appearance with 16 trunks filled with such finery as Waukesha never before beheld on one woman, and with her carriage, her livery men servants, a coachman, and coal-black horses. The other guests at the hotel were stunned by such a display. Her beauty was emphasized by her magnificent gowns, and it was said that Miss Betty often appeared in 3 different costumes in one day. It was always she who led the grand marches. At one Christmas ball, she wore a handsome black velvet princess gown. On its train were leaves embroidered or embossed in solid gold, and in her hand she carried an enormous ostrich fan studded with real pearls. That night, her golden-haired Grecian beauty was a striking contrast to the appearance of her escort, an arrestingly handsome man with black hair and a beard. This was one of the few nights when Miss Betty seemed to laugh delightfully and talk attentively to her escort. In repose, her face had come to look more and more unhappy. Her frequent trips abroad were an occasion to collect art objects and curios, paintings, and tapestries from many foreign lands. Among her favorites were costumes and a collection of unusual fans. These treasures were kept in a small alcove in Ashton Villa's ornate living room called the Gold Room, where she often entertained. In 1920, she died, still a mysterious and oh my God, I know these words, but enigmatic woman. The mansion, once so full of life, became a museum. The house was beautifully restored with Miss Betty's paintings and her furniture. The Gold Room is as beautiful a showplace today as it was when she was alive. The villa's carriage house has often been used as living quarters for a caretaker. This is where Terry O'Donohoe stayed one weekend to fill in for her friend named Don Ross, a tall, darkly handsome young man who was then caretaker of the mansion. Illness in the family necessitated Ross's being away overnight. Nothing was said to anyone. O'Donohoe simply took Ross's place. It is doubtful that anyone even knew O'Donohoe was not the regular caretaker. Just before O'Donohoe went to bed that night, he noticed some heat lightning and the oppressive stillness of the air outside.
You ever seen heat lightning?
Yes, I love heat lightning. I've always loved it since I was a kid. It's more of my favorite of the two lightnings, definitely.
I don't know. I remember the first time I'd ever seen it. It was Andy Pittman, man. Like we were like, cause me and Andy, we go like way back, like since we were like younger, like in like 3rd grade, I think, maybe 4th. So like, I don't know. My dumb ass was like, kept seeing heat lightning, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna rain tonight. It's gonna rain tonight, cause I loved rain. And he's like, no, that's heat lightning. And I'm like, what the heck's heat lightning? And he's like, I don't know. It's just like when it's so hot out that, you know, causes electricity, but no like actual thunder. You know. I don't know. It's just like I didn't know the difference between heat lightning and actual lightning. You know.
Yeah, I learned about it when I was a kid. I thought it was normal lightning as well.
Same.
And then I learned otherwise. Alrighty. Let's see here. Oh, where is it? Yeah. We're going to get some rain, he thought. Buffy, Ross's dog, was behaving particularly, following him everywhere and underfoot constantly. What was wrong with the animal? Perhaps Ross was used to this, but it was getting on O'Donohoe's nerves. He decided to put the dog outside. Sometime after midnight, he was awakened by an ear-shattering crash of thunder, followed by smaller volleys close by. The dog was barking wildly. O'Donohoe's first thought was that someone was trying to break into the mansion, and mindful of his duty, he hurriedly threw on his clothes. Outdoors, the rain lashed at him angrily, and one bolt of lightning after another erupted over his head. It was a devil of a night. He dashed under the canopy of huddled trees near the villa, but nothing was any protection against the storm, and he was drenched. Inside the villa, O'Donohoe's first impression was that the house could not have been any quieter. He had turned on the lights and already checked 2 rooms. However, when he heard people talking, it was a man and a woman, their voices raised in an angry argument. Shrinking back against the wall, O'Donohoe had almost convinced himself that someone with a right to be in the house had come back unexpectedly when he realized that all was again quiet. O'Donohoe waited for about another 5 minutes. Then he decided to continue his check of the room. When he reached the Gold Room, he was certain that he heard a rustling sound coming from within the room. But what could it be? His fingers found the light switch just inside the door, and for a moment the room was ablaze with light. To his astonishment, he saw a woman seated at the piano and a man looking down at her. He flipped the switch off instantly. He was sure that the pair had seen him, and at any moment he expected them to come after him. How could he explain who he was and what he was doing there at 1 o'clock in the morning? They would summon the police. He quickly stepped behind a screen. On the other hand, what were they doing in the darkness? But even as he wondered, he had a strange feeling. A feeling that somehow they belonged there, and he did not. Moonlight was streaming in the windows, and his eyes soon adjusted to it. He watched the woman, What a beauty she was, with that golden hair piled on top of her head. She put a handkerchief up to her eyes and seemed to be crying. The man, tall with dark curly hair and a beard, was talking to her. Suddenly, it was as if a dial had been turned up on a radio, for he could hear their conversation as clearly as if they were right beside him. "Betty, do you know who Necrosis fell in love with when he looked in the pool?" "He fell in love with his own beauty. But what are you trying to say? It is foolish for any man to talk to you about marriage. You are like, Necrosis. You are unable to love anyone. You are completely absorbed in your own pleasure, collecting meaningless objects, and most of all your looks. Harrison, do you really believe the cruel things you are saying about me? I've come to know you too well, Betty. I won't listen to this. You are hateful." And with her chin stubbornly tilted upward and eyes straight ahead, she began playing the piano.
He's mad because she made him drink out of her shoe. I'm just saying.
Maybe she's mad at him for drinking out of her shoe, putting champagne in it. Think of how much money she probably spent on everything, and she probably is, just like what he was saying, very absorbed into herself. So you spend a lot of money in shoes, then you got someone who's pouring a drink into said expensive shoe and then drinking out of it. I'd be like, what the hell, man?
Sound like something I do.
You would. That's why someone shouldn't buy such expensive shoes if you don't want them ruined.
It's just a conspiracy theory.
The man paced back and forth for a few minutes with an angry look on his face, and when he was gone, there was a crashing chord as the woman struck the keys violently. She dropped her head on her arms on the piano, and O'Donohoe heard her sobbing. He was about to leave as quietly as possible when the lady wiped her eyes, arose from the piano bench, and looked in his direction. For a moment he almost panicked and ran, for he thought a sound had betrayed him. She walked over toward some shelves filled with art objects. What an unusual dress she was wearing, O'Donohoe thought, but how it became her. It must be a costume out of the 1800s. Now she was not far from where he was concealed behind a Chinese screen. Standing in front of the shelves with her back to him, she reached up with her right hand and, taking something off the shelf, held it in front of her. What in heaven's name was she looking at? She turned around, and once more he was struck by her beauty. She held an exquisite fan in her hands. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" she began to recite in low, melodic tones. With the fan beside her own lovely face, she stared into the mirror. The fan fell from her hand. Even as O'Donohoe gazed, fascinated, her lovely face seemed to fade, and then disappear. By morning the experience seemed more like a dream to O'Donohoe. The regular caretaker, Ross, returned early and stopped by the villa for a few minutes. When he eventually came to the carriage house, he was filled with excitement. "Terry, you won't be able to believe it, but early this morning a valuable fan was taken from Miss Betty's collection, and it was found on the floor. Can you imagine that?" "No. Someone must have a strange sense of humor." "I suppose so. The cleaning lady found it when she was vacuuming this morning. Didn't you hear her call?" "No, I didn't hear a thing." "Terry, why do you have such a strange expression on your face? You look as if you weren't telling me everything." "If something happened last night over at the villa, you need to say so, because I'm responsible." "Responsible?" "Yes, responsible. I'm responsible for Miss Betty's house. Now tell me what happened." Terry told him how he had woken up when he heard the storm and the dog barking, how he thought someone was breaking into the mansion, and how, still not sure, but that it might be burglars, he had cautiously entered the house and seen a couple in the gold room. When he got to the part about Miss Betty carrying the fan over to the mirror, his voice began to tremble. Ross was greatly excited. "What did you think of her? Isn't she gorgeous? How did she look when you saw her last night? Golden hair on top of her head, tall, great figure. She's a real beauty, all right. There's not a woman alive who can match Miss Betty." "Don, there isn't any way I would check on that house again at night. It's haunted, and by more than one ghost. There was a man, dark, handsome. Ross interrupted in some agitation. And did she seem to care for him? Great heavens, man. How should I know? We're talking about a ghost, don't you understand? But Don Ross didn't really seem to be listening. He was examining his face intently in the mirror. Then he scratched the dark, curly hair and beard for gray. How strange he is, thought O'Donohoe, as he watched him. He had just met Ross a few weeks ago, maybe after he had known him longer, but O'Donohoe wasn't really sure he wanted to. I don't think we need to mention anything about your experience in the villa. Ross patted him on the shoulder. It'll be our secret, he said as Donohoe left. Ross looked at his watch. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he was already eager for the time to pass. He knew that if the dog barked, he would go. Suppose she was only a vision. She was the most beautiful, romantic-looking woman he had ever seen. He would never leave her. That's just creepy. He fell in love with the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And he's jealous of the man ghost. Like, that's just creepy.
We're gonna do an episode one day on you're gonna have to help me with that one.
What?
Ghost sexual encounters.
Oh. I don't know if I want to go there. That's just creepy.
Why
That
not?
is just creepy.
People would love it.
I'm sure they would.
So you think it's creepy? I was gonna ask you what you think, but you made that
Only-
quite clear.
Well, here's the thing. The only way it's not creepy to me is if it's your past love. You know, someone you've been married to for years and years and years,
Mm-hmm.
and they come back as a ghost. That's different. But like when you just randomly fall in love with a ghost, and usually one too. Like, okay, the reason why it makes it, I guess, a little more creepy in the way he's fallen in love is the fact of like he almost expects her to fall back in love with him, and it's like that's impossible. She's in the state where it's a constant repeat. She does not know that she is dead.
Yeah, what do they call that? Residual haunting, I think.
Yeah. It's not the intelligent haunting. An intelligent one I feel like isn't as bad as being for creepy wise because it's like, well, at least y'all can conversate and actually make a relation of some kind.
Right.
But when it's a residual one and you can't, it's just like his level of falling in love is creepy.
Yeah. There's one in here that I'm gonna do another episode. But it's like I think it's like an intelligent ghost.
Yeah.
Like it's like some chick's like ex-boyfriend. I don't know. We'll get into it on another episode, but
Yeah.
there is a little bit of update stuff that I forgot to mention. I don't know if I have mentioned it on any of the other older podcasts, but we're gonna set up a Facebook here soon. I need a good day off. I'm saying here soon, but it'll probably be about a month from now because even on my days off, I've still had to unpack and all that jazz. So whenever we get finally settled in and the house in order, I'm going to set up a Facebook. I'm going to get hooked up on Anchor so that way we could start pulling some money in for the podcast, you know. And I've mentioned this before on other videos. It's not about the money, but I mean, I've been doing this YouTube channel for 3 years and I've only got 125 subs.
So money helps.
Money helps for one, and two, it's like, I don't know, when it comes to YouTube or podcasts or anything like that, for some reason that's like the only job that everybody wants you to do for free. Anytime anyone brings up money, they get mad. Oh, that's all about the money. Well, no, it's not all about the money. It's just we've put in quite a bit of money to do this, and it's like,
Yeah.
I've been doing it for 3 years. It'd be nice to make some money off of it so I can invest it back into the channel. I'm not even wanting to make profit. I'm just wanting to break even so I can put out good content and stuff like that. Because I enjoy doing it, you know. But it's like, I don't know if it's just YouTube's fault I think personally I'm being shadow banned. I came across the podcast that had only been on there for like 3 weeks the other day, and I was telling my wife he's already got like 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, how the hell have I been on here for 3 years and put out like over 300 plus videos, traveled to other states and filmed things like, and this dude he just started a podcast in like 3 weeks. He's already got 1,000 subscribers. I'm like,
How?
yeah, how the fuck does that happen, dude? I don't get it.
I don't either, honey.
But yeah, so we're gonna be setting up a Facebook, and I'll let you all know when that's up and running. And then we're gonna set up a sponsor, Anchor. So we'll have a sponsor, and it honestly, it doesn't. You don't make much off of it. My buddy, he's on it, and he literally told me in about a month he made about 35 cents. But hey, after a year, maybe if I make $5 after a year, I could make a couple bumper stickers or T-shirts or something. I don't know, man. I'm just gonna keep trying, to make this bigger and better always, But that's it as far as update that I forgot to mention. I'll go ahead and we'll get into some UFO stuff. And if we got time, we might do another ghost story for you all too. The summer of 1972 found the Mississippi Valley once again the scene of a strange monster report. These sightings were widely reported in the press and were covered by several independent... No. This ain't it. I've already went through this. Sorry. Wrong part. The big news in August was the Kansas flap. Private investigators from UFO groups all over the nation rushed to the Prairie State. They were joined by reporters, an NBC camera crew, and by a DJ from Seattle who arrived on scene for on-the-spot reports. UFOs were seen at Hayes, Colby, Denton, Russell, Ellis, El Dorado, Fort Scott, Wichita, Logan, and Clay Center, Plainville, and other communities. One explanation for the flap put forward by UFO buffs is that a large mothership was based over the state during August, and that smaller vehicles were carrying out probes closer to Earth's surface. The activity began in July and continued throughout August. The most dramatic UFO encounter in Kansas began at Jim, Kansas, at the mobile home of John I. Calkins, and led investigating police on a high-speed chase before the object disappeared into the north sky. It all started when Calkins was awakened by barking dogs at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, August 12th. He saw a saucer-shaped object blazing with light, descending on a Quonset building about 150 feet from his mobile home. He called the police, and officers Paul Carter and Dennis Brown of the Colby Police Department were dispatched to investigate Calkins. Calkins said he saw 3 lighted objects and heard funny noises, high-pitched sounds like a swooshing of a vacuum cleaner. The objects changed colors and lit up the area so that Calkins could see his dog putting its head on the ground, apparently trying to cover its ears against the high-pitched sound. One object appeared to settle on the Quonset hut. It was a 25 to 30 feet in diameter, 15 to 20 feet high. Calkins said he could see points at each end of the dome, top and bottom. The UFO was making beeping sounds like Morse code transmission. The lights got so bright that Calkins could not stand to look at the object. Meanwhile, the patrolmen on their way to Jim had spotted UFOs themselves and had followed lights to Calkins' homes. The Hayes News described the sightings as one of the best documented cases of recent years. Unfortunately, neither Carter's Polaroid nor Brown's Instamatic cameras obtained any photographic evidence, although both police officers used all their film. Which, that's kind of odd. What do you think? Because the skeptical part of me wants to go, that's fishy, you know. But I mean, if it is an alien craft, who's to say it doesn't have the technology for cloaking devices, or
Well, yeah.
or even if it's a military craft, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's already been proven in history that someone out there can come up with this. I mean, Hitler's people were, were developing, the levitation UFO crafts. They were figuring out how to do that.
But yeah, I know that like people
So-
were building saucers and
I know
stuff.
that's what I
But
was gonna say. So why can't they cloak it?
how would you even do that though?
How did they levitate theirs? How did they have that?
Diesel and propellers.
No, I think they
I don't
had
know.
stuff. I think they actually had the magnetics part of it, but then how did you have the smarts and the knowledge to do it?
Scientists. I mean, that and they were... Okay, you're bringing up a whole nother conspiracy, though, that will be a whole nother episode. Because that gets into... Hitler had the Vril Society, who were supposedly in contact with, like, the Nordic race, which is believed they have a base in Antarctica, which gets into they're from the Palladian star system, and gets into Hollow Earth, that there's a gigantic hole in the middle of Antarctica, and Operation High Jump. That's a whole nother rabbit hole right there. I was just simply asking. I mean, we can get into that, but that's like a whole nother episode. That's like 2 or 3 hours right there. I was just curious. Just being a skeptic.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's
I mean, I just think it's fishy that they use a whole roll of film and nothing comes out. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying.
Carter got closest to the UFO, reporting a 30 or 35 foot object about 20 feet high. However, hovering a quarter of a mile away from his patrol car. The object looked like an upside down cereal bowl to Carter, and it hovered very close to the ground, about 10 or 15 feet. As the police officer watched the UFO turn into a very bright white light, so bright that Carter could not look directly at it. The sudden flood of light revealed jackrabbits sitting in the field as if it were daylight. Carter reported, as the light intensity first began to build up, it seemed like it was dripping a little of this white stuff off, but I could not see it touch the ground. That right there, I believe that's describing, I think they call it like angel hair, or angel thread, or angel silk, something like that. There's a big case in, I believe it was like France or something, where they actually got the stuff, the physical evidence of it, and it's like strings, like spider webs almost. It's weird. So that's not the first time that a UFO is like, I don't know, produced this stuff, whatever it is. Which a lot of skeptics and stuff say that it's spiders traveling in the wind and like shooting off webs, but it's like, I'm sorry, a big cloud of spiders is going to look totally different than saucers, you know, metal machines that are flying around in the sky. It was swamp gas. Then, without any warning, the hovering object made a whooshing noise similar to a vacuum cleaner and sped away from the plowed field it was hovering over and sped straight up into the sky, the intense white light going out as it lifted off. From the time it took off until it was completely out of sight could not have been more than 3 seconds. The sound lasted only a short time and had died away before the object disappeared. As Officer Carter was experiencing his dramatic sighting, Officer Brown was approaching in his patrol car. He arrived just in time to see the object hurtle into the night. The two patrolmen watched as the UFO reappeared with the red and green flashing light that characterized its earlier appearance. Policemen Carter and Brown followed the UFO to the boundary of the jurisdiction before breaking off their tracking. A detailed investigation revealed many other witnesses to the mysterious Kansas UFOs of August 12th, including police officers from nearby Oakley and motorists on Highway I-70. What do you think, though?
About what part of it?
Just the whole thing in general?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm not really sure what I would think of that one.
It's crazy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one's definitely more crazy. I'm not really sure what I would think of it. I don't know. I mean, we know that there are lots and lots of different kinds of UFO sightings out there for hundreds of years. Heck, they have found them in paintings.
Yeah.
And old paintings of a UFO hiding somewhere in that background. I'm like, oh man, dude, I've seen this, so I gotta put it in the painting here somewhere.
So I think it's like 50-50, man. I think it's like half of it is the military or government,
Yeah,
making these craft or trying to copy what they're seeing.
could be.
And then I think half of it is actual alien stuff. Because I've noticed a trend with, like Fire in the Sky, that movie they made. I listened to a podcast, Lights Out podcast, the other night, and they had an episode about Fire in the Sky, just the story. And I'd never really heard the story before, but it did something that was similar with Betty and Barney Hill. It was a gray alien encounter, an abduction.
Mm-hmm.
And they mentioned that there was humans on board the ship along with gray aliens. So it's like it comes down to one of those things of like maybe after the gray aliens landed on the White House lawn, that they made a deal with the U.S. government that we're working with the aliens, because it's like that's the second account that I've heard where like Betty Barney Hill and the guy from Fire in the Sky, both of them reporting the same thing of I got abducted by gray aliens, but there was also humans on the ship too. And they weren't humans who were also being abducted. They were working with the aliens. Like this guy had like a jet helmet on, like he was part of the Air Force or something. So I don't know. I think it's 50-50.
Why would he do that? Why would he wear the jet helmet?
Because it's the U.S. government, the Air Force. What do you mean?
I know, but why would he be wearing the helmet inside of their spaceship?
I don't know, because the U.S. government's stupid. Why do cops wear literally full military uniforms? Cops look like fucking soldiers now. I think that's stupid. Like, why are you walking around in Lancaster, Kentucky, or Lexington, Kentucky, looking like you're going to fucking Vietnam? Like, the U.S. government's not the brightest, man.
I give you that one. I'm thinking in my head, though, unless the people that they are abducting are already wearing, like, a respiratory mask of some sort, so, like, maybe we breathe differently than the gray aliens. I mean...
Well, that's another thing, too, though. The guy was in the saucer with the aliens. A lot of people think the gray aliens are, like, robots, man. So they could handle the G-forces and stuff. That's another thing that they report in a lot of these UFO sightings, is that when they see these UFOs flying around, a lot of pilots are like, there's no way that a human pilot could handle those G-forces. So, of course, the human would be all geared up.
Yeah.
His body's not used to that,
Yeah. Which, I mean...
So it makes sense why he would look like a jet fighter. You know?
Well, I know, but to me, there'd be no point in him dressed up if, let's say, the spaceship is stationary somewhere. because
He's hiding his identity.
well, that too.
Why would you, if you're doing some undercover shit with the U.S. government of like, hey, I'm basically working with aliens, there's no way you're just gonna have your face out there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be covered and
Yeah, 'cause that way you don't ever get accidentally caught up. Hey,
right.
didn't I see you that one time on the alien ship?
Yeah. Right? That's Bob down the road. What the hell's he doing? Working with aliens. Yeah.
Yeah. Although, he could still be wearing it too, though, because if the account of EB is true, then it already does prove gray aliens cannot handle our atmosphere. They have to be different, you know?
What do you mean?
EB died. Probably because our atmosphere is not what it could handle.
Yeah, what does that have to do with a human dressed in a jet fighter suit?
So the human in the helmet is breathing our atmosphere, while their atmosphere is different because we're probably not compatible with their atmosphere either.
Yeah, but they're okay with the guy with the fire in the sky. He wasn't wearing anything special.
I thought that was well, wait. Was that one only a movie? Or is that actually what he actually said too, though?
Yeah, it's an actual account. It's a true story.
No, yeah, I'm just where
In the actual account, he reports being abducted,
Uh-huh.
and when they pulled him on the ship, the gray aliens were doing all their weird shit with him,
Mhm.
and he looked over and seen basically a dude in a jet fighter uniform
Mhm.
who didn't say anything, just waved his finger like, come here. Yeah. But I mean, he said he's seen his mouth and like smiling, and
Oh, okay then.
I mean, so I don't know. I'm just saying, like,
Well, I didn't know
makes,
that part.
yeah, it makes sense that he would be wearing a jet uniform.
But yes. I mean, it makes sense nonetheless because,
We
like you
can't
said.
take those G-forces, dude,
Yeah.
of the thing flying around.
Which I would still say, oh, I don't know. Well, see.
But like EB, and by the way, EB, we're getting into like 10 billion different episodes that I plan on doing. Like Fire in the Sky would be an episode by itself. Betty and Barney Hill, which I've made a video on Betty and Barney Hill, so you guys can check that out if you want. EB is basically the aliens supposedly that we got from Roswell, of the video of EB getting sick, and EB is the actual alien's name that we gave him. Basically, though, that's what the movie E.T. is based off of, like predictive programming, kind of like declassification almost. They believe, the elite and the governments and stuff believe that if they tell us what's going on through Hollywood and stuff like that,
It won't be so scary.
yeah, because apparently they think we're all like 5-year-old children and just can't handle the truth.
Sadly, that is actually true. Some people are still 5-year-old children as adults, and
Well-
they can't handle the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could.
Oh yeah, you could. I could. Me and you could.
I've already seen the Frazzle Drip video, so I'm pretty sure it can't get much darker and scarier than that. I mean, I've already described that video to you, and the stuff that the elite are doing, there's no way that it could get darker than wearing a kid's face as a mask. Like,
No.
you know what I'm saying?
No, the alien part of it all. No, I don't see it getting any darker than that.
But even that right there would cause a civil war if that was just shown to the public. That Frazzle Drip video, like if the actual public just seen it on mainstream television, that would cause a fucking civil war.
Between the people who believe it and those who don't.
Well, yeah, look at all these idiot Antifa people who are just brainwashed into thinking the Clintons are like God's gift to mankind. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. What were we talking about? EB though. What EB getting sick?
Well, I was just saying on the account of if EB was a gray alien, which I think that's what
Oh, are you going back to like the theory that they're robots?
either they're robots or they're not, and just
I don't think they're robots just from EB's account.
well, yeah, exactly.
The only reason they say that they're robots, or it could be 50-50, the only reason that the robot theory is out there is basically because they can't figure out how these motherfuckers are still alive after traveling light years.
Because they figured out something we haven't.
Which gets into the theory that they're not really traveling like at light speed or anything, but they're actually like teleporting.
They could either be teleporting, they could have figured out the wormhole kind of theory, like, because I think if we have thought of this theory, then there are those who already have figured out these theories. We just have not figured them out yet. They've made them from theories into actuality.
Right.
I feel like...
Well, you got to think this race would be like probably maybe thousands of years ahead of us.
Oh, yes, exactly. And so I feel like they have figured out the things that we have not figured out. We dream these things, that's why they're in the sci-fi movies and books and TVs and all that. We've thought of them, we just ain't figured out how that is possible yet. How can we make that a reality? And these guys have.
Right.
But then again, if they're declassifying things through movies and stuff, then they've already told us that, yes, actually, these beings have figured it out. They're just not telling us.
Yeah. Well, they don't. There's so much shit they don't tell us, and by the time they do tell us what's actually going on, I'll be 90 years old, and I'll be that old man who'll be like, I told you guys, remember I used to have a podcast when I was in my 20s? I was telling you all back then. And they're going to be like, yeah, okay, Grandpa, yeah, he's going fucking senile. He's telling us that this happened and this happened, and it's crazy talk, and it's like, look, it's declassified. They're finally admitting to it. Yeah, we don't give a fuck. I'm Grandpa Abe, you know.
Well, that's not exactly what I meant. Actually, I was trying to say that the aliens aren't telling us how to do it. They're just saying, yeah, we figured it out, but we ain't telling you that.
Can you blame them, though?
No, I cannot blame them at all.
The aliens started showing up, like, a whole bunch right after we started testing bombs.
Yep.
And a lot of people believe that they showed up basically like, what the fuck are you all doing, dude? Like, we left for like 1,000 years and you guys are blowing shit up? Like, no. So, of course they're not going to tell us. Cause,
No, of course not.
okay,
They don't want us.
I was talking about this on the last podcast. Every technology or anything that the government gets its hands on, they militarize it.
Oh, yeah, they turn it into something completely and utterly destructive. Not only that, but we've gone and polluted our Earth even more so they're definitely like, yeah, we don't want you spreading your virus to other planets.
They have polluted the Earth.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, I know.
but the elite and the Illuminati, I look at them as a whole separate race of people. They blame us, the small people, because, oh, I have a 96 Pontiac out there, that ruined the Earth. No, that didn't ruin the Earth. What ruined the Earth was you launching all these NASA rockets that shoot off thousands of tons of fuel into the atmosphere every 5 seconds of a launch.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? We're not going back to the moon. We're not going to Mars. Like, we're just launching this shit.
We're just launching satellites up there.
Trying to what? Break the dome? The firmament? Van Allen radiation belt? I mean, what are we doing with it? And they've destroyed, the elite have destroyed the planet.
Yes, I know.
Not us, man. I know, but that's one thing that I can't stand is all these environmentalists who are like, oh, there's too many of us. We have destroyed the planet. I ain't done shit. It's the elite who have done shit. And they always, but these environmentalists will wear a NASA t-shirt. You know?
Yeah, it's because NASA's trying to save the planet, don't you know, honey?
Yeah. NASA is literally just a money-making scheme. They take trillions of our dollars and give us shitty CG video. And like, see, look what we're doing. What, making shitty? It's not even good CG. You're swimming around in a blue pool? Cool. I don't know.
Me either.
Do you have anything else to say?
I don't think so.
That's about it.
That's, I think, about all she wrote.
See, this is why I need someone to actually do the podcast with me so we can bounce conversation off each other. Otherwise, it's just me reading and talking about it, but I only have so much to talk about by myself, you know?
Yeah.
Alright. Well, that's all she wrote. I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Please like, share, subscribe. Hit us up in the comments, man. I don't hear much from y'all in the comments. And I don't know. I'm one of those few YouTubers who actually respond to comments. So please do so. Y'all have a good day.
We are as a people inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.